You are standing in your childhood kitchen. It is a summer afternoon and the day feels enormous. The clock on the wall has barely moved since breakfast, and the hours stretch out in front of you like a long, empty road. You have nowhere to be. You are bored, gloriously bored, and time is thick and slow and endless. Now you are an adult. It is somehow already the middle of the year. You blink and a Monday becomes a Friday. You blink again and another birthday arrives, and you find yourself saying the same words everyone your age says. Where did the time go? How is it already this late? Wasn't it just January? You feel it happening. Every year moves faster than the last, and you assume it's just a feeling, a trick of a tired mind. But the acceleration you feel is real, it is measurable, and the reason behind it is far stranger than getting older. The strangeness begins with a simple question. Why would time feel faster now than it did when you were 8? The seconds haven't changed. A minute is still 60 ticks. The Earth still turns at the same speed it always has. So the change isn't in the clock. The change is in you. More than a century ago, a French philosopher named Paul Janet noticed something about this feeling and tried to put it into numbers. His idea was almost embarrassingly simple. He said that the length of any stretch of time feels relative to how much life you've already lived. To a 2-year-old, 1 year is half of everything they have ever known. It is an eternity. To a 50-year-old, that same year is 1/50th of their life. A sliver, a rounding error. Think about what that means. Each new year you live is a smaller and smaller fraction of your total existence. When you were 10, a single year was a tenth of your whole life. By the time you are 40, a year is a 40th. The years don't shrink. Your reference point grows. And against that growing background, every new season feels thinner than the one before it. This idea is sometimes called the proportional theory, and it explains the shape of the feeling. It's why summers seem to last forever when you were small, and why decades now vanish like weekends. But it doesn't explain everything, because time doesn't just feel faster as a lifetime. It feels faster week to week, month to month, in ways that a simple fraction can't capture. So scientists went looking for something deeper. They went looking inside the brain. Long before the brain scanners, a psychologist named William James wrote about this exact sensation. In 1890, in one of the founding books of modern psychology, he described how the days of youth feel long because they are crowded with new experiences, and how the years of adulthood grow hollow and collapse. His explanation pointed at something we now take seriously. Novelty. The brain, he suggested, measures time by how much new information it takes in. And a child's world is nothing but new. Here is what your brain is actually doing. When you experience something for the first time, your brain works hard. It pays attention. It records dense, detailed memories, laying down rich tracks of a moment it has never seen before. The first day of school, the first time you saw the ocean, the first kiss. These moments are heavy with detail because your brain treated them as important, as unknown, as worth encoding fully. But what happens when you've done something 1,000 times? Your morning commute, your walk to the kitchen, the same route, the same faces, the same coffee. Your brain stops recording. It runs on autopilot, using a template it built long ago instead of writing anything new. And when your brain writes nothing new, that time leaves almost no trace behind. So now imagine you look back on a month. If that month was full of first times, full of novelty, your brain hands you a thick stack of memories, and the month feels long and full. But if that month was routine, if every day folded into the last, your brain hands you almost nothing. A few blurred pages. And a month you can barely remember feels, in hindsight, like it barely happened at all. It feels fast. This is the cruel arithmetic of getting older. Childhood is an avalanche of firsts. Adulthood is a landscape of repeats. The more familiar your life becomes, the less your brain bothers to record, and the faster the years seem to slip through your fingers. The writer and psychologist Claudia Hammond gave one version of this a name. She called it the holiday paradox. Picture a week away somewhere new. While you are living it, exploring unfamiliar streets, the days feel rich and slow because there is so much to take in. But the moment you get home, that whole week seems to have flown by. The same stretch of time feels both long and short, depending on whether you are living it forward or remembering it backward. New experiences stretch time as you live them, then compress into a dense, vivid memory. Routine does the opposite. It races by unnoticed, then leaves nothing behind to look back on. But maybe you're thinking, this is all about memory, about looking back. What about right now, this very second? Does time move faster in the present moment too as you age? To answer that, A researcher named Peter Mangan ran an experiment that is almost beautiful in how simple it was. He gathered people of different ages and asked them to do one thing. Close your eyes. Count silently in your head until you believe 3 minutes have passed. Then say stop, no clocks, no counting out loud. Just your own internal sense of time, ticking away in the dark. The young adults were remarkably good at it. On average, they said stop right around the 3-minute mark, just a few seconds off. But the older adults, people in their 60s and beyond, kept counting. And counting. On average, they didn't feel that 3 minutes had passed until nearly 3 minutes and 40 seconds of real time had gone by. Sit with what that reveals. When they felt 3 minutes had passed, more time had actually elapsed than they realized. Their inner clock was running slow. And a slow inner clock means the outside world is racing ahead of you, slipping past faster than your mind can track. The world, quite literally, was moving faster than they were. Why would the internal clock slow down with age? One idea points to the brain's own processing speed. An engineer named Adrian Bejan proposed that as we age, our neural pathways grow more complex and more worn, and the signals travel a little slower. Our eyes, he noted, take in fewer distinct mental images per second than they did in childhood. And if you process fewer snapshots of the world in a given moment, then more of the outside world flows past between each snapshot you catch. To a child taking rapid mental pictures, a single hour holds an enormous number of frames. To an aging brain taking fewer, that same hour feels emptier and slips by faster. So the acceleration isn't one thing. It's a conspiracy of several. Each year is a smaller fraction of your life. Your days grow routine, so your brain records less and remembers less, and your inner clock itself begins to run behind the real one. Together, they make the decades feel like they're falling out from under you. But here is the twist. If time speeds up because of novelty and routine, then the speed of your life is not fixed. It is not simply a function of how old you are. It is a function of how you live. The clock on the wall is out of your hands, but the clock inside your head is not. Think back to why childhood felt so slow. It wasn't magic, it was newness. Every day contained something your brain had never processed before, and so every day was recorded in full. The reason adulthood accelerates is not that you got old. It's that you stopped collecting firsts. You settled into the template. You let the autopilot fly. Which means the antidote is hiding in plain sight. When you break your routine, when you take a different road home, learn something difficult, travel somewhere strange, meet someone new, your brain wakes up. It starts recording again. It lays down dense, detailed memories the way it did when you were young. And when you look back on a period crowded with new experiences, it feels long and full and slow, exactly the way those endless childhood summers did. You cannot add years to the far end of your life by wishing, but you can make the years you have feel wider. You can make time thick again, not by slowing the clock, but by giving your brain more to remember. So the acceleration you feel is real, but it is not a sentence. It is a signal. Every time a month vanishes and you wonder where it went, your brain is telling you something honest. That stretch of life was smooth and safe and unrecorded. It's asking you for something new. You are standing in a kitchen. Maybe it's not the one from your childhood. Maybe it's the one you stand in every single morning on autopilot while another week quietly disappears. The clock on the wall moves at the same speed it always has. But whether this day feels enormous or whether it vanishes without a trace was never up to the clock. It was always up to you.